Hey there, I'm Lily. Let me tell you about the moment my life flipped upside down. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon in our small suburban neighborhood. Angela and Andrew, who lived just a couple of doors down, seemed like the perfect couple, happy, settled, the picture of domestic bliss. But under the surface, there was a storm brewing, one I couldn't quite understand. Angela, in particular, always had this underlying tension around her, especially when it came to me. I couldn't pinpoint why, but I could feel it simmering. One day, I walked over to their house, cradling my newborn in my arms, excited to share my joy. I naively thought the baby would bring us closer. "Hey, Angela, look who's here. Isn't he just adorable?" I smiled, beaming with pride. Angela forced a smile back, but her eyes revealed something darker. "He's lovely, Lily. Congratulations." Andrew, bless him, was more genuine, his smile warm as he said, "He's perfect, Lily. We're so happy for you." But I noticed his nervous glances toward Angela. Something was off, and it only got worse as time passed. What started as small, uncomfortable moments turned into awkward family dinners filled with passive-aggressive comments. I couldn't ignore it anymore. One day, I asked Andrew, "Is everything okay with Angela? She seems different." He sighed, running his hands through his hair. "It's complicated, Lily. She's dealing with some things internally. I'm not sure how to help her." I didn't want to push, but the strain was becoming impossible to ignore. Things finally came to a head at a family gathering. We were all at our parents' house, and the atmosphere was tense from the start. Angela was especially on edge. Everyone was passing around my baby, cooing over him, but when it was Angela's turn to hold him, something snapped. Her expression twisted into something unrecognizable. Without warning, she slapped me across the face hard. The room fell into stunned silence. I could feel the burn on my cheek, my shock mirrored in everyone's eyes. My baby started crying, his wails cutting through the heavy tension. "Angela, what the hell?" Andrew's voice boomed, full of shock and anger. "I don't know. I just..." Angela stammered, her face pale with confusion and horror. My parents rushed over, bewildered. "Why would you do that?" my mom asked, her voice trembling. Angela just stood there, staring at her hand like she didn't know how it had betrayed her. I held my baby tightly, his cries quieting as I rocked him, trying to process what had just happened. Andrew approached me, his face full of guilt. "Lily, I'm so sorry. I don't know what got into her." His eyes were filled with pain, caught between his wife and his sister. That moment changed everything. The peaceful facade of Angela and Andrew's life had cracked wide open, revealing the unresolved issues and deep-seated resentment lurking beneath. From that day on, everything shifted. The tension that had been slowly building exploded, and none of us would come out of it unchanged. In the days following the assault, the atmosphere in our family was thick with tension, almost suffocating. Andrew, a lawyer by profession, found himself in an impossible situation. One evening, in the quiet of their home, he and Angela had a conversation that felt like a final reckoning. "Angela, I've seen so many family disputes in my career. I never imagined we'd be in the middle of one," Andrew said quietly, his voice heavy with sadness. "You're my husband, Andrew. You're supposed to be on my side." Angela shot back, desperation in her voice. "It's not about sides, Angela. It's about right and wrong. You hit my sister. In front of everyone. I can't just ignore that." Andrew's voice trembled as he tried to keep his composure. "I know I made a mistake, but I'm your wife. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" Angela's eyes were pleading, searching for a sign of solidarity. At the same time, I was struggling with my own emotions. Sitting in the quiet of my living room, I confided in a close friend. "I never thought Angela would do something like this. And Andrew, he's in such a tough spot. Lily, whatever happens, you need to protect yourself and your baby," my friend said firmly. Angela crossed a line. Meanwhile, Andrew was in his home office, torn between his duty as a lawyer and his love for his family. The legal implications of Angela's actions were clear to him, but the personal cost was immeasurable. The next day, Andrew and I met at a small coffee shop to talk. He looked worn down, his inner conflict written all over his face. "Lily, as a lawyer, I know what Angela did has consequences. But as your brother, this is breaking my heart," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to tear our family apart, Andrew, but I can't let Angela's actions slide," I said, my voice steady despite the swirl of emotions inside me. It's not just about me. It's about setting an example for my child. Andrew nodded, understanding the weight of my decision. I'll stand by you, Lily, not just as your brother, but as a lawyer who believes in justice. His words brought comfort, but they also marked the beginning of a difficult road ahead, one that would change everything. In the weeks that followed, Andrew found himself in the strange position of advising me on the legal case against his own wife. Our conversations were professional, but the emotional undercurrents were impossible to ignore. We need to document everything, Lily. Every piece of evidence, every witness statement. They're crucial for the case, Andrew said one evening, slipping fully into his lawyer role as I prepared for the legal battle ahead. Meanwhile, Angela's world was unraveling. Alone in their home, she grappled with the weight of what she'd done and the looming consequences. Why can't they see it was a mistake? Why isn't Andrew defending me? She muttered to herself, a mix of anger and confusion swirling in her mind. One afternoon, Andrew and I met at my lawyer's office to go over the strategy. Lily, we need to be thorough, Andrew explained. Every detail, every moment of that day needs to be accounted for. I know, Andrew, I said, a lump forming in my throat. It's just so hard to relive it over and over. He reached over, his voice softening. I'm here for you, Lily. We'll get through this together. As Andrew tried to juggle his roles as my brother and Angela's husband, Angela herself was struggling. In a rare moment of vulnerability, she confided in a friend over the phone. I never meant to hurt anyone, she said, her voice cracking. It just happened, and now, Andrew's against me, everyone's against me. You made a big mistake, Angela, but you need to face it. Maybe if you own up to it, people will start to understand, her friend suggested gently. As the legal case moved forward, the emotional toll was heavy. During a family dinner, our parents tried to offer their perspective. Lily, we know this is difficult, but you're doing the right thing, my father said firmly, his voice full of compassion. Angela needs to be held accountable. I just wish it didn't have to be like this, I replied, the guilt and conflict gnawing at me. This whole situation is tearing Andrew apart. Lily, sometimes the hardest decisions are the most necessary ones, my mother said softly, squeezing my hand in support. At home, Andrew found refuge in his work, but the strain was undeniable. One late night, he confided in a colleague. I'm stuck, John, Andrew admitted, rubbing his temples. On one side, I have my sister, who I love and want to protect. On the other, my wife, the woman I thought I knew. Andrew, you're a good man. But this isn't just about family or marriage. It's about doing what's right, John replied, offering a sense of clarity amid the chaos. As the trial date approached, tensions boiled over. Angela, feeling increasingly isolated, grew defensive and bitter. During a tense meeting at their house, Andrew tried to reach out. Angela, we need to talk about the trial, about how you want to handle this, Andrew said cautiously. What's there to talk about, Andrew? You've already chosen your side. You're not my husband anymore, you're just my accuser. Angela spat, her words dripping with venom. It's not about sides, Angela. It's about taking responsibility. I want to help you, but you have to help yourself first, Andrew replied, his emotions tightly controlled. The day of the trial arrived, and the tension in the courtroom was suffocating. I sat, a bundle of nerves, with Andrew by my side, a pillar of strength despite the clear toll this had taken on him. Lily, Andrew whispered as the proceedings began, no matter what happens today, remember, you did the right thing by standing up for yourself. The trial unfolded with a series of testimonies and evidence. Angela sat, her face a mask of unreadable emotions, occasionally casting glances at Andrew and me, her eyes full of resentment and regret. During a recess, I found a quiet corner of the courthouse to gather my thoughts. It was all too much, too heavy. I was lost in my thoughts when a familiar voice broke through. Lily, are you okay? It was my friend who had come to support me. I don't know, I said, my voice barely a whisper. It's just a lot. I never wanted this. Sometimes life throws us into deep waters, my friend said, gently resting a hand on my shoulder. Not to drown us, sometimes the deep waters aren't meant to drown us, but to cleanse us, my friend said, her words wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Back in the courtroom, Angela's defense painted her actions as a momentary lapse in judgment. When Angela finally took the stand, her voice trembled as she spoke. I never meant to hurt anyone. I lost control, and I regret it every single day. I'm truly sorry, she said, her eyes briefly meeting mine. The trial concluded, and the judge delivered the verdict. Angela was found guilty. The weight of her actions finally caught up to her as the sentence was pronounced. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the courtroom. Afterward, Andrew and I walked out together, the sun shining brightly, in stark contrast to the turmoil we felt inside. Lily, I'm sorry for everything. I hope we can move past this and rebuild our lives, Andrew said, his voice filled with both hope and exhaustion. I hope so too, Andrew. We've all lost something in this. It's time to heal, I replied, feeling a sense of closure but knowing the road to recovery would be long. In the weeks that followed, life slowly began to find a new rhythm. I focused on healing and taking care of my child, finding strength in the simple joys of motherhood. During a quiet evening, I sat with our parents, sharing a meal and reflecting on the past months. Lily, you've shown so much strength through all of this. We're proud of you, my father said warmly, pride shining in his eyes. It wasn't easy, but I've learned a lot about myself, about forgiveness, and about moving forward, I said, feeling a peace I hadn't felt in months. Meanwhile, Angela faced her own journey of redemption. Alone but determined, she began attending counseling sessions, confronting the demons that had led to her downfall. In one session, she confided in her therapist. I've lost everything, my husband, my dignity. How do I even begin to make things right? Angela asked, her voice heavy with regret. It starts with forgiving yourself, acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them, and then you can start to rebuild, her therapist replied, offering her a glimmer of hope. As the seasons changed, so did the chapters of our lives. I found joy in my role as a mother, witnessing my child's innocent growth. One sunny afternoon, as we played in the park, Andrew approached us, his steps hesitant but sure. Lily, it's really good to see you, Andrew said, his eyes lighting up at the sight of his nephew. You too, Andrew. Look, your uncle's here, I said to my little one, who greeted Andrew with a big 2V grin. We sat on a park bench, talking about how life had shifted. I'm learning to find balance, Lily, to forgive myself and look ahead, Andrew shared, his voice carrying a newfound understanding. We talked about our hopes for the future, about healing and moving forward, a conversation that reflected our resilience and the enduring bond of family. As for Angela, her journey continued on its own course. Sitting with a close friend in her small apartment, she shared her thoughts and fears. I've lost so much, but in a way, I've also found myself. I'm not the same person I was, Angela admitted, her voice tinged with a new sense of optimism. It's a new beginning, Angela. You have a chance to rebuild your life, to be better, her friend encouraged. Angela nodded, the prospect of starting fresh both daunting and invigorating. In my world, the focus was on rebuilding and nurturing the life I had. During a family dinner, our parents expressed their thoughts. Lily, you've come so far. We're so proud of how you've handled everything, my mother said, her eyes brimming with pride. I just want to give my child the best life possible. To show him that even in the darkest times, there's always a path to the light, I said, my heart full of determination. Meanwhile, Andrew found solace in his work and in helping others. His experience had deepened his understanding of the complexities of human relationships. In a conversation with a colleague, Andrew reflected on his journey. I've learned a lot about empathy, about the gray areas in life. It's made me a better lawyer, and I hope, a better person, Andrew said, his voice full of reflection. You've come a long way, Andrew. That's something to be proud of, his colleague replied, acknowledging Andrew's growth. The chapter of our lives marked by turmoil and pain was closing, giving way to new beginnings. Angela was on her path to redemption, learning to live with her actions and striving to be better. Andrew and I, bound by the trials we had faced, looked to the future with hope and determination. That night, as I tucked my baby into bed, I reflected on the journey we had all taken, the pain, the lessons, the growth. Our story was one of resilience, of facing the consequences of our actions, and of the enduring power of family and forgiveness. Now, here's a question for you. If you were in Andrew's position, torn between supporting your spouse and standing up for justice for a family member, what would you do? It's a tough choice, balancing loyalty and morality. Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world and keeps these stories coming.